An exceptional first quarter in 2021 for multifamily housing. 2020 was incredible statistically speaking, but the first quarter is very impressive. So I'm Thierry Samlal from PMML. I will be presenting to you today the statistics for the month of March 2021, as well as the first quarter of 2021 in multifamily housing in the province of Quebec. So let's start with my top three. I always like to, every month, give you a top three on what's going on in multifamily housing in Quebec. So the first one I would like to talk to you, top one, is the quantity of transactions and the volume of transactions, money-wise, that took place in the first quarter of 2021 is just incredible. So statistically speaking, if you look at the volume that we had in the province of Quebec for January 2021, we were at $617 million. So that's quite a big amount for the first month of the year. But what you must know is a lot of the transactions that took place in January started maybe 6 months before in the top of COVID. So that's why we still have that performance of the number of transactions money-wise. February 2021 is also very interesting. $522 million of transactions took place. That's also a high amount. The month of March, very impressive. $508 million of transactions took place in the month of March. So if you combine the 3 months together, well, you're close to 48%. In terms of dollars transacted, you're at 48% of what transacted in the whole year for 2020. Volume-wise, we're almost at 50% of what transacted in the whole year 2020. Very impressive. Now, apart from that, if you're looking at the volume and transaction money-wise, you must also look at the number of transactions that took place to see if the market is still with the same velocity than it was within 2020. We know that in 2020, the velocity of the market picked up quite a bit and in the fourth quarter. So the number of transactions did go up, price per door went up, cap rates compressed. Also, the quantity of financing rose very high at the end of the year, November, December 2020. So we know that the people that were able to refinance some of their buildings that they had already in the fourth quarter started to transact in that quarter and now are closing in the quarter of 2021. So we are still on the COVID effect, which is very interesting. And since the rates are still relatively low, not as low as what we had in the fourth quarter of 2020, but still relatively low, well, we're still in a market that's overperforming right now, which is very impressive. So 48% of the volume money-wise in transactions have already taken place in the first quarter of 2021. Let's look at the number of transactions. For the province of Quebec, in January, we had 287 transactions of multifamily that took place, which is a good amount. February 2021, 323. So we're increasing in the number of transactions. And I don't know if you're sitting down, but in the month of March 2021, 363 transactions took place in the province of Quebec. So in total, we're talking about 973 transactions that were closed for purchase of a property in the first quarter of 2021. Let's take that number, 973 transactions, compare it to what took place in the whole year for 2020. In 2020, we had 2,355 transactions that took place that were closed. So right now, we are already over 41% in number of transactions that have transacted in the first quarter of 2021 compared to the whole year of 2020, and 2020 was an exceptional year. So what is happening in the market right now? Well, we have buyers coming from the outside of the province, which are now very interested in Montreal, which have been for the past 3 years. We also have very large transactions taking place on portfolios, and the number of sellers is increasing, but the number of buyers also. So we have a market where the request for the properties and the offer that the market could give to the buyers is maintained, and that is rising right now. So we'll see if that's going to take place all along the year, or is everything going to cool down in August, September. That we'll see later on, but we have a fantastic year up to now. So that's my top one. Top one is the number of transactions in Quebec, exceptional. Top two is the Three Rivers market. So if you're not from Quebec, or you're outside of Montreal, or you're from the rest of Canada, Three Rivers is the major city located midway between Montreal and Quebec City. So it's midway between both. You have owners that have assets in Montreal or Quebec that are buying in Three Rivers in the middle. Three Rivers was a market that was very stable price per door wise. Over time, the assets in Three Rivers were not taking that much value price per door. To give you an idea, the average price per door in Three Rivers is between $56,000 to $61,000 per door, which is much lower than what you're seeing, of course, in the Montreal and Quebec City. And that was stable for many years. But for the past few months, the prices being what they are right now in Montreal, for the smaller size buyers, a lot of them are going towards Three Rivers to pick up assets that they can optimize largely and still pay a price per door, which is very affordable if you're compared to Montreal or the Quebec market. Now that's one thing. But what I've seen in the month of March is something very impressive. I've seen a transaction takes place on almost 515 units. A portfolio was sold for an amount above $62 million. So we're talking about an average of about $128,000 per door, which is quite high for a market that's at around $56,000 to $61,000 per door. But if you're looking at the assets that were purchased, they're concrete buildings, probably the highest buildings that are available in multifamily housing in Three Rivers, in the greater Three Rivers area. All concrete build, interior garages, very well located with a capacity to increase the rents, mostly hot water paid by the owner. So these assets have a great value add onto them. And also they correspond to something that the buyers are looking for right now in the market. Buyers are looking for something that is concrete, but there's not much available in Three Rivers. Apart from that, if you're looking at the tenant base in Three Rivers, well, there's a lot of small buildings. A lot of these tenants want to go into larger buildings, renovated, with services well located. So I understand why the buyer has purchased this asset, these approximately 515 doors. Now, if you're looking at the assets, first one is about 225 doors, hot water and heating paid by the owner. This asset, imagine on a large street corner, two buildings, one which is 9 floors plus a garage, then one which is 6 floors plus a garage. Between both buildings, a large underground open parking lot, with in front of that a small commercial strip. So very interesting assets. Located also close to the CEGEP of Three Rivers, to the University of Quebec located in Three Rivers, and also to the hospital that is linked to the university. There's also green spaces in that area. That area is surrounded by commercial, and it also has a great transportation system, but that is by bus, but still very developed, and that's very easy to access for the working class and the students that are in the area. There's a lot of students in that area of Three Rivers. So a very nice asset. In that same portfolio, There's another building that was included, which is 155 unit. This one is 15-story high, 15. It's located in the older part of Three Rivers, but that's being revamped right now completely. It is close to the port of Three Rivers, and it's also close to a new theater that's been put in place, an international grade theater. They've also demolished a bunch of warehouses in that area close to the waterfront. They have now revamped that area and they're building on it. So definitely a great asset for the buyer that's purchased. Also in that portfolio, there was a sale of a 9-story building, almost 136 units in the close to the university. Also very good location. The buyer is a private, it's a private funded buyer. They've been open in Montreal here for business. The company that's purchased since 2018, relatively new. They've been buying many portfolios at a very increased speed. It's a one-stop shop. So basically they buy, they manage, they optimize, they add value to their own buildings, and then I'm guessing that they're going to be refinanced on the short term. The company's span has not been here for a long time, but I'm guessing that that's what they're going to do. And they already have several thousands of units that they've purchased in recent transactions in Montreal, very important transactions. So that's my top 2. Very interesting to see that. My top 3 are the transactions that have been taking place in the greater area of Montreal region. So Montreal Island, the outskirts, Montreal, the south of Montreal, South Shore, North Shore of Montreal. Great volume in transactions. 363 transactions have taken place. Almost $500 million worth of transactions only for the month of March. So that's definitely in my top 3. Very interesting to look at that. Most of those transactions took place, 72% of those transactions took place in the 5 to 12 door category. So the 5 to 12 door building category is what you'll see mostly in Quebec. It represents about 75% of the market. So here we have 72% of the transactions that have taken place in the month of March, which is logical. If you're looking at the category of 12 to 50 doors, that's where most of the competition is these days. Why? Because the smaller investors are growing and they want to buy bigger buildings in that category. And most of the market, it's a category that's very accessible. So having a lot of competition to the 12 to 50 door range, we're seeing increase in price per door. And what I like to do is I always like to separate Montreal in the middle by St. Lawrence Boulevard, which used to be the main in Montreal, the main boulevard. So west of Montreal, east of Montreal, separated by the St. Lawrence Boulevard. Most of the transactions in the 12 to 50 door range are going to take place in the western part of Montreal. Why? Because naturally most of the buildings in that category, in that size, were built in the western part of Montreal, middle west, southwest, northwest of Montreal. That's where you're going to see those assets. 4 transactions, very interesting. One that took place close to Westmount, which is an upgrade area in Montreal, close to a metro transportation station, and also close to Mount Royal Park, which is definitely an asset for Montreal. Most of the tenants like to hang out in that area. It's a green space that is used by a lot of the citizens of Montreal. That transaction took place close to $265,000 per door. It was a 34 unit, mostly 4.5s. The building already had a lot of qualities to it, very good location. The asset was in good condition, still could be value added, but you know, something which is pretty interesting. That sold for close to $265,000 per door, which is very interesting if you're considering that the average market of Montreal is close to $110,000 per door. That's including the smaller and the larger units. In the west of Montreal, another transaction took place close to $270,000 per door, mostly 4.5s and 5.5s. The heating and hot water were paid by the owner. It's a 33 unit, very well located, close to a metro station, also close to the Jewish Hospital of Montreal. So it's an area which usually the rents are pretty kept on the high end, but there's still optimization possible in those areas. Then I have two other transactions which are most representative of the west of Montreal, one 31 unit, one 25 unit. The 31 unit is a high caliber location, close to Mount Royal. It sold for close to $200,000 per door. So that was a transaction that I found was low price per door for that size of building. So maybe the owner was did not have somebody to give him information on the market, etc. I'm just guessing here because I find that transaction was low. So probably there was no professional involved in the file to assist the owner in his sale. Also, close to 25 units sold in the NDG area, which is the western part of Montreal, a little bit further away from downtown, close to $200,000 per door. A very interesting asset on a semi-commercial street. So I think that's pretty representative of the values that we're going to be seeing in that area for buildings that have some value add on to them. One building that's sold in the east part of Montreal in the Rosemont district. Rosemont is a family-oriented district, mostly French-speaking, but it's a district where a lot of the investors are massively injecting right now because it has a great capacity to increase the rents over a long-term period because of the quality of the tenant base that's in that area. So that transaction took place close to $175,000 per door, but was mostly 3.5s. It was close to a subway station and close to a major library in the area. Very interesting transaction. So very exciting first quarter for Quebec and the greater area of Montreal region, also for Three Rivers. Quebec City, I haven't spoke about Quebec City, but there's good transactions taking place in that area. A lot of new build coming up in Quebec City. So very exciting what's going on in Montreal right now. We're continuing on the wave that COVID brought us. Still, the Montreal market is overperforming. Very interesting to see what's going to happen in the rest of the year. So if you have questions on the market, I'm very accessible. Don't hesitate to contact me directly. If you have a building for sale, it's going to be a pleasure for me to do an evaluation for you. So have a great month of April. Looking forward to talking to you soon in the next month to give you the next Market Watch. Have a great day.